We want to talk about Viennese coffeehouse culture, but also New York coffeehouse culture. And we have here a distinguished round of guests who either are coffeehouse owners, or who are former coffeehouse owners, and who are writers. Coffeehouse culture has a lot to do with literature, coffeehouse literature. And I'm very happy, I'm going to introduce him very quickly, that we have two coffee house owners from Café Ost, a coffee house in the Lower East Side, and one former coffee house owner, the owner of Café Trotsky, and who wrote a beautiful book about the experience, Ground Up. And we also have Frederick Morton here with us. What does a Viennese coffee house mean to you?
The Vienna coffee house means above all being gemütlich and lazy. And that's why in a true Viennese coffee house, the waiter will replace your glass of water every hour or so, meaning you can stay. Of course, he charges more. And that goes completely against the grain of the New Yorker, you know. And of course, it's difficult to maintain because the turnover is that much slower, and in terms of dollars and cents, you don't make as much money. The Vienna coffee house, financially speaking, was important because the housing situation in Vienna was so bad up until, I would say, after World War II, that many people use the coffee house as their living room. They lived in such small apartments. And my mother, as a matter of fact, told me that some people she knew that worked for her mother, my grandmother had something that's very hard to translate, a Drexlerei, which means mother of pearl lathing place where they made mother of pearl ashtrays, that some of their workers went to the coffee house to use the lavatory. So the coffee house, even though you spent some money, that's where you were warm, that's where there was plumbing. For the lower classes, that was an important resource, and that's where they were willing to spend money. For the middle and upper class, it was a place for gregariousness. My parents, for example, never entertained, to my knowledge or memory, any social friends in our apartment. These were all family people who came. The family, I was part of a huge clan, they all lived in the neighborhood. When my parents saw social friends apart from family, they went to the coffee house. The Café Push mostly. So that was another very important function of the coffee house.
I would like to introduce the next panelist, Michael Eidoff. Michael Eidoff and his wife opened a coffee house in New York about a couple of years ago, and you called it Café Trotsky. It was in the Lower East Side. And then 6 months later, you closed it again. And why do you think is it so difficult to have a Viennese coffee house in New York?
The coffee house is an extension and a replacement of the living room. And people go there to get out of their tiny, cramped New York apartments. But that, unfortunately, is a double-edged sword, because the extension of the living room more and more these days involves sitting in front of a computer. So they come to the coffee house to sit in front of a computer. Because, again, a coffee house is a communal place, and but we have begun to use it to sort of be alone in a communal setting and be completely closed off. And whereas, you know, even if you're reading a book in a coffee house, it's possible to actually strike up a conversation with somebody. Oh, I see you're reading Ground Up. How, you know. But you know, if you're in front of a computer screen, I mean, it's impossible to start a conversation unless you're hovering directly behind that person. So, you know, oh, I see you're on Facebook. You're you know, one sentence in and you're already a stalker. So that doesn't work. And again, another hurdle.
I would like to introduce to you the next panelists. Aaron Hagedorn and Lenka Opalena. Both are owners of the Café Ost. Are you trying to, in some way, copy a Central European model of coffee houses?
We were definitely inspired by coffee houses in Prague and Budapest and Vienna, and wanted to bring a little bit of that culture to the East Village.
Did it work? I mean, did it work with
I think it works fantastic.
Did it also work with the habits of your customers, of your clients?
Well, we were talking about this, like what would a nowadays intellectual look like, as in 100 years ago they came with books and newspapers, but today Kafka would probably have a laptop as well. So we try to find a balance between people who come there and work, and we actually 2 weeks ago introduced wine and tried to break the atmosphere so these crazy kids do some flirting and not just work.
I would like to change a bit this subject and talk about Starbucks coffee, and I would like to know your opinion of it. Everybody seems to complain about Starbucks coffee. We wanted to invite somebody from Starbucks coffee in order to have them here and discuss their view on coffee house culture, and they wrote back an email to me saying that unfortunately they couldn't participate because the event wouldn't fit into their marketing strategy. But what is really wrong with Starbucks?
They kind of painted themselves into a corner right now, because what happened was that they took it upon themselves to give Americans a taste for good coffee, and inevitably, once that phase was over, the Americans who did get the taste for good coffee also realized that Starbucks isn't it.
What they did do, they got the general public, moving further. They found something nice, now they want something better. And that's where, cafes, such as ours, Ost Cafe, and other, as they, in the coffee industry or the cafe industry, with which there is one, something, third wave cafes, cafes that really take it, take what they do seriously, which we sort of look at Starbucks and we don't really think they take what they do, seriously. I mean, somebody who's making the coffee knows exactly what they're doing and how, if they adjust water temperature or grind size or so on and so forth, how that will affect, your coffee or your espresso. And once you start, and Starbucks just doesn't do that. We saw that there was, sort of two different places if you want to, talk extreme generalities. There are the places where you can get good, a good shot of espresso, good coffee, but it looks like a prison cell. Or you can have a very nice, relaxed area, but their coffee is, and espressos, latte are less than, worse than Starbucks. And we saw that why can't we just combine the two, along with good service? That was, sort of our three, pillars was, good product, a great place to be, and serve it with a smile on our face, and really appreciate and appreciate that our customers are there, because we know, and in our direct area, we know that we have competition who do a very good job of what they do, and they choose us. So we never lose touch that they do have other options. So treat it as such.
There is among these coffee snobs the really dogmatic conviction that no really good coffee is possible outside Vienna, no matter how great your know-how is in making coffee, for the simple reason that only the Vienna water can produce the kind of coffee. And there are people who tell me that when they go outside of Vienna, they take with them bottled Vienna from water from the tap in order to make coffee somewhere else.
And thank you very much for coming to Café Leopoldi.